So we have Jesus Olivas here. He's gonna be presenting on improving your Drupal 8 development workflow. Okay, Jesus, so we are ready.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for attending this call. This presentation, as Kenny mentioned, I will talking about improving your development, your D8 development workflow, in this case by using Composer. And for so long, we've been using DrushMake as the tool for building our websites. And when I say building, I mean talking about getting the proper modules for our projects and setting some default configuration side built either for local development or for production. And we will see how can use this new tool where on the Drupal world is called Composer. Composer is a project manager, a tool for managing packages on our projects. And well, just a little about me. So I'm Jesus Olivas. I'm a Drupal and Symfony developer. And yeah, you can find me as JMOLIVAS, at any social network. For this, during the session now, I'll be talking about some tools, in this case, Composer, Git, Drupal console, and the Drupal Composer project. Let's start moving into this. So first thing, how do we used to get Drupal before 8.1 got released? Easy as just get either downloading the tar from DO. We can probably just go to the Drupal.org and just right-click the download link, just put it on in our file system, or by using drushDL command or Drupal site new command. In this case, we get the distribution package for Drupal, and what we just get on getting that from Drupal.org, we just get the whole package. We get Drupal plus the vendor directory, which is in this case is the place where the third-party dependencies are, because we all know Drupal 8 now is built in top of Symfony components and some other third-party components. And by getting that distributed package by DO, we get that vendor directory containing all those dependencies, which in this case is probably not the best approach to do. But I mean, it works, that's fine. And it means we get something like this. We get the vendor directory full of directories and a lot of files. So this is like probably something we can avoid doing using tools like Composer, and we'll see how this looks like. And we also get this example for the get ignore file. And as we can see here, we are not ignoring the vendor directory. And if we try to use something like Git, all those files will be committed in our repository, which means our repository will end up with a huge amount of files. And how this is changing starting from 8.1. I mean, we can keep doing the same thing as I show you. You're getting the tar or the zip file from Drupal.org, and everything is like prepackaged. But I mean, starting from 8.1, we can do something better. We can use Composer, and as I mentioned before, Composer is a dependency manager tool for PHP. It basically takes care of managing your dependencies or the dependencies in your project, and it also manages the dependencies of your dependencies, and it also takes care of getting those from and try to resolve any conflict between the different dependencies you are managing, and just download it into your file system. And it works something like this. We have a Composer JSON file where this is the place where we just register all of our dependencies, right? So we have this file we register that we want to require in a specific package, 1, 2, 3, and any number of packages. And then there is a place called packages. Packages is not only other than a big repository, but all these packages are mapped to the source. And when I'm talking about source, it means where this repository is currently located at. It could be, the most common place is GitHub for open source libraries, but it could be anything. It could be like having your own GitLab or Bitbucket or even your file system. And then finally, it takes care of downloading all those dependencies and to the vendor directory. It means takes care of resolving any conflict between the different dependencies you are requiring to, and just installing those into your vendor directory. And at the very last part of the process is to create a Composer log file. That Composer log file contains the exact version that was downloaded, based on all the resolution that your composer do based on your composer JSON file. So basically, we start with the composer JSON file where we define all the dependencies we are requesting, and we end up with a composer log file that contains the exact version that will be using for our project. Something that you have to remember with your composer log file, and that helps you because committing this file, it means next time someone wants to get the exact same dependencies in the project, you just can get it from there. Let's see. Let's see how we should start a new project by using 8.2 Drupal. In this case, we can use the awesome project. We can either go first, just go using composer and create project command, and then call Drupal. In this case, I'm just trying to get Drupal, the vanilla Drupal installation, and I'm passing some other parameters. It means where is the directory that I want to download. There's some other parameters that we don't have to worry about. But basically, it's called in composer CLI tool, then create project command, and we pass as an argument the package we want to download. In this case, it's Drupal. After we have this, we can just run git init to make our project a repo, and finally use copying the example gitignore file as gitignore. We have something like this. So this is how the gitignore file looks like. We are ignoring the vendor directory. As you can see here, it's no longer commented, so it means it will be ignored. It means every package in our project will be ignored. Located on this vendor directory will be ignored from the repo. It means we won't be committing that. And it also takes care of ignoring some other files within sites and files and private files in our repo. How do you add a new dependency? Let's say we just get Drupal and we want to add Drupal console. Then we will be using the require command. So composer require, and similar to what you saw in previous slide, in this case it's Drupal/console, which means Drupal is the vendor and console is the package. It means we are requiring, in this case, Drupal console. Difference related to the latest slide is, in this case, we are preparing. We are also specifying which version that I want to download. In this case, colon and then 1.0, because I want that version. And some other options that we don't have to worry about. Okay, so we get composer create project is the one who starts the project for us, and composer required to getting new dependencies. And then we can use Drupal console for getting our site installed. I won't go in detail on this. It's pretty much like site install command, passing a bunch of arguments. What do we just need to do? Remember that the sites start files. Files were ignored for the repo. If we want to use the configuration system for Drupal 8, we just need to make sure all those files are committed into our repo. So we need to change that to something like, in a path that is located on the repo or is not ignored. So in this case, I'm just moving that instead of default files. I'm just putting something like, config, is including the hash file that was generated by Drupal, and then sync, which is the sync directory. Now all of the configuration files that we will be having by using config export will be there. So next time we can use someone else export some configuration files, we run config import, reading from there, and just import that configuration into our system. Let's say we make some changes in our code. We want to make sure we commit all changes. So we'll do something like this. Just do your magic. Finally, after making all your magic, you just git add for adding your changes in the project, git commit, adding -m to adding a message, then git push, right? It means all of the changes that I just did in my project will be committed. That's fine, right? And what I need to do is create a pull request, create and send a pull request, and then someone else merge the changes, and how the rest of the team get a copy of our project. So let's say I start the project, I just run the create project composer command, they just add Drupal console, probably make some changes in the code, how the rest of the team will get or obtain a copy. So what they need to do, they need to git clone the project. So because my project is located in a repo somewhere in the cloud, so they will end up running git clone. They won't be required to run the create project command, because that was the one run first. In this case, if someone else wants to get a copy, they will be using git clone. git cloning the repo. And after that happens, the process for them to get the dependencies of the project is by running composer install. And that composer install will read the composer log file. And by running composer install, we ensure anyone in our team just download exactly the same version of the dependencies we are using. Remember, while running composer, defining all those in our composer JSON file, then all the process end up by creating this composer log file. So the rest of the thing will be running composer install. And this command, we will read this log file for us. We'll read that file for us, get all those dependencies, and everyone will be working with exactly the same version of the third-party dependencies or third-party libraries we are using it. If we want to download modules, unfortunately, just by running a Drupal vanilla installation, we need to keep doing the same thing as before. By getting the module from Drupal.org, and those modules will be stored on the our repo. In this case, we can use the module download Drupal console command. In this case, let's say admin toolbar, and then finally I need to install this module. So I will use the module install command, and I want to make sure get exported, because when we enable a module or install a module, the configurations gets changed. So we end up using something like export config, config export command, and this will create all those files. Update the configuration file for me. So finally, what I need to do, you git add again, git commit, push, merge. I'll send a pull request, someone else merge, and how the rest of the team can get all those changes. In order to start working with the project, I was first using git clone command. Now that I have that project clone in my local environment, we end up using something git fetch. Git fetch and git merge to make sure I just sync all of the changes. And I can just, at this point, just run Drupal config import. It means that configuration that got exported, which contains the module is installed, now will be loaded in my system. And finally, I can just run the cache review command in order to make sure everything was working fine. So what do we have so far at this point? So we are using Composer to manage the site, and we just finally get the vendor directory ignored. So the third-party dependencies are no longer part of the repo. We are only Composer log files who contain the definition of those. It means we are saving a lot of space here, and we are using Git for coding configuration. So we are moving in the right direction. But still missing a few pieces, right? So what we're missing is our modules are still committed. As you can see, we never, within our Gitignore file, we were not ignoring the modules directory. It means all of the module directory, all of the module file will be committed in the repo. Now, also another probably big issue we have here is the configuration directory is not side of the Drupal project root. It means it's available through the web browser. And finally, third-party dependencies on modules must be managed manually. It means if we are using the address, we're trying to use a commerce module, and this module depends on an external dependency like address, we will need to get that package, the address package, manually by running Composer require commerce guys, address. Because since we are not using Composer to manage those dependencies, we need to manage those dependencies manually. But there's a way to fix that. So it means we are, as I mentioned, we're going on the right path, but we're still, we can improve the process. And this is what we can do in order to improve the process. Project. This project is a template for Drupal. This project helps us to download Drupal, and also Drupal console, Drush, Behat, and different packages that we require to work with, in our day-to-day with Drupal. And this is how it looks like. Remember before, I run the create project, and then I just say Drupal, Composer, create project, Drupal, and that gets me Drupal in my system. So in this case, instead of using Drupal, I will run the create project command and call Drupal Composer. And I also want to specify as a 8.x version. That's fine. And we don't worry about this. This is the directory will download it and so. So that's fine. This is what really matters for this now. Create project, and then use Drupal Composer, Drupal project, Drupal. And after that, we just run git init because we want to make sure we are using a control for our file. We just get by getting the Drupal Composer project. It's a different directory structure that might be at the beginning could be a little like, scary, but I mean, that's totally fine. As you can see here, we have a web directory containing all of the Drupal files, and then we have a vendor directory outside of web. It means all of our vendor files will be outside of the public web directory, and then the same root of the project has some other files like the composer JSON, composer log, and some other files. But so far, what we need to make sure is to understand we have this new web directory containing all of our Drupal files, right? Then we have, this is how our git ignore file looks like. So we are, again, ignoring the vendor directory. We are ignoring the web core directory as well. And this is the important part. We are also ignoring web modules contrib, web themes contrib, and web profiles contrib. It means any module, theme, or profile that gets downloaded on that directory will be ignored from the repo. It means those files won't be committed. And I will show you how we'll manage those, since we are not having those, on the repo. And we are also, again, ignoring sites files. Sites files, which means we also will ignoring, we should also make sure we are also ignoring, public and private files. And again, how do we install Drupal? Just by running site install command, passing all the arguments and options. And I know here we are fine. And now let's make the change. Remember before we changed the settings file, the settings path? We changed our settings file, the path where the configurations is stored, configuration files are stored. But in this case, instead of just moving those away from the files directory, used to be catched by the repo, we're just going a step further and just moving to a top level outside. It means we're taking off of the web directory. It means we're taking off this out of our web directory, which means outside of the web server public files. It means those files won't be available to the web browser. And same approach as before: git add, git commit, git push, and set up pull requests, merge or changes, and we have something like this. How the rest of the thing will get on the local copy? As before, git clone and then composer install. The composer install will take care of what? Or reading our composer log file and downloading all of our dependencies. And at this point, using this tool, how are we going to get our modules? So this is what it changed by using Drupal Composer. If I want to get a module, a Drupal module, now I'm able to do that. Before, remember in the other example, I was running the module download Drupal console command. For doing that, in this case, that command is no longer no longer the best option. That recommendation while using Drupal Composer is to run Composer to get any dependencies, including Drupal modules. So in this case, we'll be running Composer require Drupal admin toolbar, which is the module name. This is how the name, this is the name of the module, and this is the vendor or the owner of this module. Again, and if I want to make sure this module is installed, I will run module install. So this doesn't change at all. The only thing that is changing here is the command I'm using to get in the module. So it means we are managing our modules as third-party dependencies. Finally, I want to make sure I'll export the configuration to the rest of the team, make sure the rest of the team can get those while getting the project. And how the rest of the team will get the changes: git fetch, merge, composer install to get any new dependencies, define it on the composer log file, and then Drupal config import and cache rebuild all. And what if I want to update a module? I can run composer update and the module name. Composer update and then module name, vendor, which is Drupal, and module name, And this will take care of getting the latest version of the package, update composer log file, and finally, I will make sure I will run any pending MDD update, any hook update. So I will run update execute and the module name. Again, we need to make sure all of the changes are committed in the repo. So we will do what? Git add, commit, push, and merge. And the rest of the team can do the same thing as before. Git fetch, git merge, then make sure they run composer install to get any packages that was committed into the repo. And then in this case, they can decide to run either update execute, and if they know, the rest of the team know, or we have a way of letting notify everyone, we just update this specific module, they can execute that update execute and passing the module name, that the only module name that was updated, or they can just go play a little safer and run update execute all for running any pending hook update. So what we have at this point? So what was changed before the first approach and this new approach? The first is by using Drupal vanilla installation, and the second one is by using Drupal Composer. So we have Composer managing the site, which is something we had before. Directory ignore, which is similar to what we have. We're using Git for coding config management, coding configuration. And we do that also, what we just get new compared to the other approach by using Drupal vanilla. Modules are managed via Composer, and modules and their dependencies, right? So we are no longer required to manually by Drupal modules. It means if we get Drupal commerce, Composer will take care of getting any dependencies of this module. It means if Drupal Composer depend in the external package, like address, this will be downloaded in the system by Composer. And finally, we get the config directory outside of the project root. It means it's no longer available through the browser. But let's see how is this happening. How Composer know about the module? How Composer know where those modules are? And what's the difference between the first approach that Composer have no idea where Drupal modules are versus the second approach by using Drupal project? First thing, every single module should have a Composer JSON file. It means admin toolbar or devel or any module should have a Composer JSON file. And this file contains metadata. The most important part for the purpose of this presentation is obviously the name, which in this case is how this package will be recognized by Composer. And second one is the type. It means we have a package which is called Drupal admin toolbar, and it's of type Drupal modules. It means this package, once that about this package, he will know it's a Drupal module. And or Composer JSON file, or the Composer JSON file in our project, it contains this extra definition. It's telling Composer, when reading this, make sure Composer, when reading the Composer JSON file, find out about this repository definition. So we are telling Composer, we have a new repo other than the default repo by Composer, because there is a place called packages with the rest of the packages. Are loaded. Like probably most of the other projects like Symfony or Laravel use a default packages repo for managing their dependencies. In the case of Drupal, we have a special place for having those. Those packages are not registered at packages.org, which is the default place for Composer for finding definitions. We have our own package. This is called packages.drupalcomposer.org. This is the one you will be by default using while using Drupal Composer. Now Drupal.org has its own, which is packages.drupal.org. In this case, /8 Drupal 8 modules or /7. At this point, it's no longer in beta. I think it's something more than beta now. This will be stable. There will be a stable release for this place or this packages repo early next year. So for now, if you are using Drupal Composer, by default you are using the Drupal Composer packages server. You can switch to this one if you want to. This is a small change you will be required to do on your module definitions, but it's safe to play with this or with the one on DO. What I was told the other day on DrupalCon Dublin, it's the Drupal one is way faster than the Drupal Composer one. So it will be a good idea to, switch those and start playing around with. But so far, again, if you are using Drupal Composer, by default, you are using the Drupal Composer package place. And how Composer know where to store those modules, okay? Because as you remember, what you can remember is anytime you get a third-party package, you just get downloaded to the vendor directory. And that is not happening with Drupal. When you get a Drupal module, even when it's managed by Composer, third-party dependency or a package, it's stored at the module's contrib directory. And this is happening because Composer read the package definition, in this case a Drupal module, and there is an extra section within our Composer file where we define our installer paths, and then we're telling Composer, if you find a package which is type Drupal module, make sure you download to web modules contrib and then the name of the package. Same thing for profiles and themes. So it means any of those, any package that is of those types won't get downloaded to the vendor directory. So we are, in this case, we're forcing any specific directory to get downloaded to. Okay. Maybe you're thinking, how can I use a module outside of Drupal? Maybe you are, making some changes in a module, or you just create the module, you put it in GitHub instead of Drupal.org, which sometimes happens, and you can create your own package. Within the Composer JSON file of your project, you can define a new package. Assign it as a type, and then you can define the whole thing. You can define the name. In this case, you can define the version. You can say this package type is of type Drupal module. In order to what? To get this downloaded to the directory. And what you need to do is to tell your package is of type Git in this case, and just pass that Git path in GitHub in this particular case. And in this, if you add a reference, it means you are pointing this download to the tag. So you should have a tag. So a tag in this package, you have a tag something like 8.1.x. And how do you get this package in your site? Once you have this definition, Composer will read it for you from this, and you will be able to run Composer require, and then the package name you define what register in this package. In this case, it's Drupal Gist embed, which is Drupal Gist embed here. So I define it with this name, and now I'm able to use. And okay, how can I apply patches? Something that we use a lot while using RushMake is to apply patches. We can do the same with Composer. So we have this extra patches section within our Composer JSON file, or we can set something like this. The key in this array is something like the module name. So I want to have the module name here, and it contains an array of a key value. In this case, is the description of the patch, and then a URL to the patch. This URL could be either a patch to Drupal.org. There might be this patch is posted on the module. Someone sent the patch, the repo, to the module, into the Drupal project, and you can get the patch from there. Something like http://drupal.org, blah blah blah, /something, and then patch name patch. Or this could be a patch. This file could be something like within your patches directory in the root of your project, as we used to do that before, right? And well, now that you patches and how to install modules that are outside of Drupal.org and modules within Drupal.org, how can you automate some tests? You can use this. The script section of your Composer file. The script section contains something like hooks. Like you can execute tasks before running installers, or post, after running the installer. So we have the pre-install command, or post-install commands, or pre-update command. So we can hook or execution, or any scripts to run, like pre or post-install. Same for the pre or post-update. And in this case, you can run any shell command. I'm showing you here is I'm running a Drupal chain command. A chain command is a command from Drupal console that can read a YML file, and that file can contain multiple commands defined there with their options. So in this case, instead of running a shell command here, I'm just running this chain thing. And this is how it looks like. So I can have the Drupal installation from here, running the site install and just reading environment variables to make sure my site is installed automatically. And it also, it's like, I'm creating dummy data for it, like create users, vocabulary, terms, or node. I'm just loading my site in every single time that I'm building my project. So I'm installing this, I'm just like filling with dummy data. Something that you can do on pre-install or pre-updates. I want to make sure I got a copy of my database, and I want to get a copy of the files just to make sure having a backup if something goes wrong. So we can run something, commands like that database down, and the exec command that allows me to run any command available on my CLI. So I can run the exec command and just run this composer archive. This command will create an archive of my project. It will create a tar file for me with all of the files in the project. And post install or post update, just to avoid remembering every single time that I run composer. To avoid to memorize running config import and config update on post after just getting the changes, syncing the repo, we can attach something like this. Forced to run a composer import, a config import and update execute all commands. So it means all of the configuration will be imported and all of the hook updates will be run after running on the post section of my composer. So it means post install and post update, those instructions will be run. And or maybe you have a question, should I use composer install or update, or when to run which one or the other? Remember how composer works, it reads a composer log file to get into grabbing your dependencies. So if you want to check out a new project, the first time you check out the project, you will be running composer install, right? Because this project should contain a composer log file. If you want to grab the latest updates from other developers, you will be also running composer install. Someone composer update for a specific package, and those changes were committed, right? So someone else created a composer log file for me, and I only need to run the composer install command. If I want to grab the latest version of a specific dependency, I will run composer update, but I will never run composer update like this. I will run composer update and then Drupal/admin toolbar, or Drupal/ something like that, or Drupal/web profiler. I just need to specify which dependency I want to update. It's not safe to run the composer update like this because every single dependency will be updated in the system. Deployment, you can do something like this. Composer install, if you want to deploy your project, and you can run composer install. But when you are deploying, you make sure you are just passing those flags like no progress. If you are deploying, you don't want to see all the output in the CLI. You want to make sure you, as prefer this, it means you will be getting the package version of your project. It means it won't be cloning the project for you. It means you don't require to have Git installed on the server. You make sure you pass the flag no dev. Remember the big issue with people having coder. You should never ever have developed versions in your server. So when running composer install for deploying, make sure you pass the no dev flag. And finally, you can use the optimized autoloader. This will create a map of any of your classes, just to make faster when loading those classes through in the code. How you can speed up a little the process? And make sure you disable Xdebug from the CLI while using Composer, and you can install this package hierarch with the Prestissimo package, and this allows you, while running Composer, to trigger like parallel downloads. It means you can run by default it's like still 6 parallel downloads, so you can download way faster than just downloading one by one the packages while using Composer. And you finally, latest thing, remember, you should always commit your, okay? Because what? Because this is the file that contains the exact versions that you know are like working in the project, and you want to make sure the rest of your team is using the same version because it's the one you are sure it's in your system. I think we can question it now.
Yes, I think Kendall had a question. I posted there in Flowdoc.
Okay, listen, I have a custom module. Yeah, I think your module. It is a public. Need to add it as Drupal module. It doesn't have to be like the type should be like anything different. Have and you want to by compose as a to contain that definition. Make sure your module has in your. I mean, regardless if it's public repo.